holidays, everyone. Welcome back to another 12 days of giving with another good-looking brother, if I don't say so myself, Dr. Cherry. As you guys know, really great friend, part of the podcast before. All his episodes and stuff will be in the description below, but today's about his story, or the story he's about to tell, to help you understand that you are not alone in this world. And really, that's what today is about. So without further ado, Dr. Cherry, why don't you lay it on us?
Thanks, Stoy. This is a perfect cast. I love this. This is great for the holiday season. Thanks for letting me be here. So I got a story. You want me to jump into the story?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, that's the bet. Okay, so I have two stories, and particularly when they relate to money and how they're fast forwarding to now. So a lot of people ask, well, what's your earliest money memory, right? and mine, I had to rethink this here recently, and my earliest money memory was with my dad. It was with my dad, and we were going to collect money from a family member because my dad had lent money to, I don't know, one of my older cousins. One of the older cousins we call uncle, right? And I didn't know what was going on, and my dad jumped into this truck. It was one of our first family trucks that we've had. It was like an old 1970 Chevy or something like that, right? And we're actually getting to not only earliest money memory, but earliest memory I've had as a human being. And he was like, "Come on, you're jumping in the truck with me," and I jumped in there, and we rolled, and I watched him because I stayed in the truck. It was night, it was raining, I never forget it. And then Pops went up to to my uncle, and they talked or whatever. And years later, when I got older, obviously, I asked about that event, and my dad was telling me, he was like, well, we loaned this family member some money, and we gonna, what did Lonzo say? He's, "I'm gonna get that money, Jake. I'm gonna get that money," right? And my pop said, I went over there and I'm gonna get that money, right? And so it was very clear that he used the word loan. All right. And I know when we're talking with family members and friends, and we have to create financial boundaries in order to be able to have that relationship. And so we all joke that if you loan money out to family or friends, then you're not going to get that money back, right? And you gotta play it like the casino. That said, if it was discussed, I mean, if you use the word, "Hey, I'm loaning you this money," and there was a intentional conversation about paying those funds back, then you have to obligate that. And I also remember what my parents, and particularly my dad in this case, he always used to make us write a contract out when he gave us it was $20, Story. Like, I mean, it didn't matter. It was two sentences. I loaned Preston $20. He owes me $20 back by this date. And if it was an interest, sometimes it was a small interest amount, and it may have been nothing. It may have been like 1% or 0.5%, but it doesn't matter. He wanted to say, "Hey, listen, this is how interest works," right? And so we had contracts on loaning money. Now it's different from allowance, but if he loaned you some money, his own children, then he had a contract. And so these memories right here, Story. This one memory, I'll get to another one later, but this one really stuck with me. And also fast forwarding how it relates till now is I recently had a family member to get a little bit of a jam with funds, and thankfully I was able to help. And because I've been there, people have helped me, no question. I've been in jams, I've been on the down and outs, and so I borrow money myself. And so that recent event, it was kind of like Back to the Future. That event where I remember it as a child influenced how I handled that behavior or had at that event now. So yeah, that's one of the stories.
In your opinion, how do you think that currently affects a lot of families? Like, this happens all the time. Let's be real. Families, friends, you're loaning money back and forth, giving money, whatever you want to call it. But how do you think it negatively affects our society currently with these that are not taught to do what your dad said and make a contract, interest, and have all of that, education behind it?
Yeah. Money stories and how we engage with our money, they're either barriers, boosts, or boundaries. All right. And so that's why we need to understand our stories. I think that, I think I heard it recently that says, well, one of the worst, I wouldn't say one of the worst things, but one of the worst things you could say is, oh, it's always been done that way. Right. And I go back to, my mom didn't want us to put syrup on biscuits, because my grandparents are from the country and all that. And so we put syrup on biscuits, and that's just what it was. And she was like, well, syrup on biscuits, that'd make you, big and everything like that. Right. My dad was like, no, put some syrup on those biscuits. Right. And all that. And she was like, why? He was like, because I had syrup on my biscuit. Right. Just because it's been done a certain way doesn't mean it can't be, corrected a little bit. Now, I just had me some syrup biscuits the other day, but it's in moderation, right? But the point about that is that when we are talking about boundaries, boosts, and barriers with past events, well, just because my dad, and we've seen this multiple times in our family, so has everybody else, like you so eloquently stated. Just because there may have been financial trauma with lending money before, doesn't mean that it has to be that way going forward. All right. But that said, meaning not lend the money at all. And I say that with all compassion, is because there are folks that will, in any money situation, if you had a money experience, earlier in life, and it hasn't been addressed or flushed out or investigated, then there's more than likely a direct linkage on how you're handling that situation currently. And that's why I say it could be a barrier, because that friend or that family member may well deserve, lack of a better term, or warrant, that lending of money, and may have the aptitude and the attitude to want to pay that back. And because of a past event, it has served as, now it's a barrier to potentially, lending that money to that person that actually is going to do something with it and pay you back. So it's trying not to let, try not to let past experience become barriers to your future thriving, current or future thriving with your money. Now, that said, awareness is key too, right? And after the investigation about this, the investigation of what that event and flushing that out, that doesn't mean that just because you flush that out and you feel better about it and you know how to build better boundaries, doesn't mean that you won't lend the money. But at least it won't be for a initial reaction of, that's the way it was, and that's what I'm going to be now, right?
Yeah, and I think that communication with yourself is key, because if you're having that conversation, you flesh it out yourself, you understand what the scenario, why your emotions are that way, and regardless if you ended up lending it or not, your outcome is going to be positive. I think that's a really big key in our money conversations and our relationship with money, is when you've made the decision that is thought-based, you thought through it, pros and cons, but you still wholeheartedly want to make a decision, regardless of that outcome, it is going to be more positive for you from an emotional mindset perspective, because you've been, as opposed to us, the others that just like off the whim make a decision and it goes bad. Now they're spinning, right? They're going through all the scenarios of why. That's what the beforehand communication is. But also the communication to these people, right? To your loved ones, to whoever you're lending the money to. I think the open line back and forth prior to, during the loan, the contract, and even after is vitally important, because that's what ruins relationships. Money ruins a lot of relationships, and a lot of it is because there isn't that open door communication to be like, hey, Preston, I know you lent me the money. I know it was due today. I still don't have it, but I'm working on it, and this is what I'm working on to get there. That's a different conversation than me just ghosting you, not saying a word. You have to come knock on my door. That's different. It's a different relationship and outcome. What do
Yeah.
you say to those people that are in the situation right now, listening to this podcast going, I know I made the mistake. I didn't think through it. I'm emotional. How do I get out of this situation? I don't want to ruin the relationship with my best friend or, my uncle or whatever. What do you say to those people?
Wow, that's an excellent good question because, well, you know what? If you want to keep that relationship, then you have to do what we call just chalk that up, just or another phrase is charge it to the game, right? So sometimes you got to do that. And I think to your point too about conversations, it's revisiting the conversation very briefly and be like, Joe, Jane, we had that conversation last week about that change. Hey, I thought about it. We talked about being alone and all that, and it still is. But you know what? In order for us to remain friends and keep it moving and all that, I'm gonna charge it to the game. All right, and then they can say whatever they like because you didn't do it for them. You did it for your own well-being. You did it because you cared about the relationship more than the money. Although the money is important because a lot of folks say it's more than money. Man, shit. No, look, I don't downplay money in a lot of things that I talk about because money it is the issue. Even the conversation that we're talking about right now. Yeah, money is the issue. All right. And is the relationship more than money? Maybe. Because the other way to handle that is hey, we had that conversation and loan and all that, and I want to help you out as much as I can. We need to reestablish another due date for that payment. Now, if they push back, I'm like, why you got to do me like that? Well, then you be like, hey, listen, we can't talk until that money comes, right? And if that money don't come, then we're going to discontinue our relationship. So that's two different approaches depending on where you are with that friend and where you are internally. And because if it's a principle, then you essentially have somebody bold-faced lie to your face, right? Right, not a lie, but a bold-faced lie. And that's on a principle. So it's a principle of, yes, I'm valuing the relationship, I'm gonna charge it to the game, or yes, it's a principle and you bold-faced lied to me, I can't trust you, right? And it's about the principles and the money. It's not one without the other. So that conversation and how you approach it, have it, but also before you arrive at the conversation, it's your why. It's what principle are you standing on, and then also just forgiveness and because if you forgive someone and you let somebody make it, then you can't revisit that again. And so it's for your own internal peace. So settle yourself before settle yourself, then have that conversation, and then let the outcome come where it may.
Powerful part about that is your why. Like, if you know what you're doing, you know who you are, it also allows you to say no to that.
That's right.
Like, not get in that situation. And not because of them or whatever, but because of you, and be like, no, I'm my pass on this way. I can't afford to loan that out because it goes against what my why is or my principle, whatever that situation is. Knowing you allows you to say no, and that's okay. And if they don't respect that, then you probably just learned a little bit about that person, and you might want to put them not on the Christmas list this year. Right?
That's right. Right. Boost, barrier, boundary. Right. And it is okay to say no. It is okay to say no. And having a script ready also for those situations, having those couple of boilerplate responses and honest responses, but having those ready can be prepared to better prepare you to have that boundary. Somebody asks you for some money, I thank you for coming to me and let me know about it. Right now, I'm handling my business right now, and I'm really giving all the attention to that, and I need every cent right now. If I'm in a better position, then obviously I consider it. But right now, I'm in a similar journey like yourself. So I can't do it this time, right? And there it is. Right
There it
there,
is.
I just gave you the script.
Right.
Right.
Copy paste, copy paste. Use that one.
Use that one, right? Use that, because it is okay to say no. And there's also folks to say you can. There's another script back. You can just give it a Whitney, and I call that a hell to the no. And it's like you don't even had no, you didn't even had no discussion. They'd be like, "Can I borrow that change?" Be like, man, nah. That's just it, you know, because that person know what's up, you know. And also too, I would say that when you're when you're lending money, it's like, well, just you be okay with saying no, have a conversation, but also be prepared for the outcome. Be prepared for the outcome too. That's one of the most important things. And if you, like you said, if you've done the self work, then the outcome is gonna come where it may. And also, let me add this: the person that's borrowing the money, if you let them make it, right, you've also understood to create a barrier and boundary. But it's not a barrier, because barrier is self-inflicted, but a certain boundary next time, if there's a next time. Is like, can I borrow something? Can you put something on it? Can we split this dinner? Or, you got to, all that's a no. Because, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. What are we going to do?
Absolutely. You said earlier you had another story. Do you remember what that other story was?
Another story. It's along the lines of this one. And I kind of switched it just right now, is because, I saw money being exchanged within family members with financial trauma, and even just life trauma. I say financial trauma and generational trauma. All right, which is, yes, I'm gonna loan you the money, but it might be brought up again, right? Oh man, if somebody's dangling that over your head like a little mistletoe, yeah. Right? And you'll never hear the end of it. Or when there's a conversation, it's brought up for a shame or judgment or some sort of whatever it may be, I did this for you type of thing, right? And so that has impacted me in a way to where I may not ask for money from a family member or a friend, because I've already assumed that they're going to use that against me, or shame me, judge me, come up and be like, oh, so you remember that bread I lent you? Blah, blah, blah. Okay, we talking about that, right? Or, or there's some sort of, just something emotional compensation that comes with it, and I've seen that through my whole, particularly early childhood and early adulthood. I've seen that. And I've actually experienced it with a family member, to where one time I borrowed money. I would keep this family member who they are out of the name, but I borrowed it from my family member for college education. And it was just for some, I wouldn't say just, because at the time it was needed. So for some books. And I remember the episode really affected me. It affected me so much with the attitude in which it was delivered. It was like, I think something to the effect where, well, I gave you that money. You couldn't do it, so why'd you ask? Oh, and I remember it affected me so much. I was like, word. I put that money back in the envelope. And it was back to the snail mail days. I found me a stamp. I was licked that back. I put that money back in there, and I needed that bread too at the time. But I was like, no, all right, if you're gonna do it like that, then I don't need your money, right? And going forward, let's say you want to partner up with a family member, maybe for an investment, or maybe a down payment for a house, or you have a healthy relationship with someone, and they've extended. They said, you know what, come to me if you have something that you need some help with. Maybe starting a business. I don't know what that is. Whatever the ask is. I'm using my story. Has my past experience with, lending this way prevented me before from asking from the money without having a first assumptive thought that whomever I ask the money from that they're going to judge me and use it. And the answer to that is yes. Until I've had to, hey, there it is. You do your self therapy or, whatever it may be, in order to flush that out and say, what was the reason that why is, then why, there we goes why, unpacking the why, discovering it, peeling the onion back. Well, why do you feel that way? And did it keep you from an opportunity? Did it keep you from advancing? Boost, barrier, boundary, right? So yeah, that was the other story.
Love it. And we usually ask to leave us one nugget at the end, but you just did it before without me even asking. So I love the hell out of that too. But as we get through this holiday season, there is something special coming out on the 24th, which is in 2 days. 2 days is coming out. Can you shine light on what's coming out that maybe you can get someone to get a little Christmas present that can help them on their wealth journey?
Oh, well, thank you, man. Well, one thing that came into the world, I got this big grin as my son, my wife and I's son. So that's why you see a big grin on my face. I got married last year, and now one of the third events of my life, right, is becoming an author. I had to get those two out on public, right? Like, you like your book better than your child and your wife? No. But my book, thank you so much. So Wealth in the Key of Life. And that's coming out on the 24th. It's available for pre-order. Then you can just order it so you can have a stocking stuffer, kick your new year off, right, with your finances. And it's a feelings plus finance book, a money psychology type of book that, whereas you tap into your stories, you tap into your money. And what we're talking about today, for sure, impacts and informs the strategies of your money once you start investigating the self, past, present, future.
And you already know I pre-ordered it. We talked about it. I think it was on LinkedIn or something. And I always use money as a tool, and you came at me with some good stuff. So I can't wait to dive into it. We'll do a preview of the book as well. But I appreciate everything that you do for the game itself, for the people out there. And now you got, a lovely wife, little kiddo not letting you sleep. So I appreciate you. Have a happy holidays. And everyone out there, like, share, subscribe, comment, not because of the algorithm. We don't care about that. We want you to be able to reach us and have conversations. Conversations drive you to take that next step. That next step is what drives you on these journeys. So I appreciate you, sir.
Yes, same to you. Thank you, Story.
Sponsored by Black Mammoth. Any awards, rankings, or recognition by unaffiliated third parties or publications are in no way indicative of the advisor's future performance or any individual client's investment success. No award, ranking, or recognition should be construed as a current or past endorsement of Black Mammoth. Information regarding specific awards, rankings, or recognitions is available on the Black Mammoth website, www.blackmammoth.com. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. Investment strategies such as asset allocation, diversification, or rebalancing do not assure or guarantee better performance and cannot eliminate the risk of investment losses. There are no guarantees that a portfolio employing these or any other strategy will outperform a portfolio that does not engage in such strategies. This broadcast should not be construed by any client or prospective client as a solicitation to effect or attempt to effect transactions and securities or the rendering of personalized investment advice due to various factors, including changing market conditions. The information discussed in this broadcast may no longer be reflective of current positions or recommendations. While information presented is believed to be factual and up-to-date, Black Mammoth do not guarantee its accuracy, and it should not be regarded as a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. The tax and estate planning information discussed is general in nature and is provided for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or tax advice. Listeners should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding their specific legal or tax situation. Past performance is not indicative of future results.